Discover the 8 carbs that will transform your health after 60, 4 to avoid, and 4 hidden gems await. Mary's heart sank the moment Dr. Thompson mentioned her blood pressure and cholesterol. 62 and feeling like a ticking time bomb, she visualized her grandkids laughing around the dinner table, waiting for her signature pot roast. Thoughts of hospital rooms and medication filled the edges of her consciousness, igniting deep fears. She started to question her entire life's purpose. What kind of grandmother would she be if she was bedridden, unable to host those cherished family dinners? Determined not to become a distant memory, Mary dove into research. Every evening she sat at the old wooden kitchen table, surrounded by her family's beloved, worn cookbooks, the aroma of past meals clouding her focus. She discovered 4 carbs to avoid, lurking in her kitchen like unwelcome guests: white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, and unhealthy fats. But amid the shadows there were glimmers of hope: quinoa, sweet potatoes, legumes, and whole grains. Yet the more she learned, the more her heart ached. Tradition was woven into her very being, each recipe a thread connecting generations. How could she shift her family's beloved meals without feeling like she was taking away the love it represented? At her first attempt to introduce healthier dishes, Mary's excitement quickly morphed into a culinary disaster. Her children, their faces clouded with disappointment, argued that substituting whole grain for white pasta felt like a betrayal. Each critical word felt like a dagger, piercing her determination. She hesitated, tears threatening, wondering if they would ever understand how dire her health had become. Would they forever see her as the villain ruining their cherished memories? As pressure mounted during escalating dinner debates, she sought comfort in her neighbor, Joe, the retired nutritionist. He welcomed her with a kind smile and wise words, guiding her through the complicated world of nutrition and flavor. Their laughter echoed through the kitchen, filling the void that disharmony had created. But the shadow of skepticism from Mary's family loomed larger, even as she experienced newfound energy and vitality. Her heart raced as she prepared to unveil her latest creation, a lighter version of her mother's famed lasagna. She could picture their reactions, the warmth of appreciation she craved. But when the moment arrived, silence, thick as fog, installed itself. Their meaning-laden glances twisted her stomach into knots. Her son's brow furrowed in disbelief. Her husband's silence was the heaviest of all. Mary felt she stood alone, an island in her own home, questioning whether this journey toward health was worth the price of their familial joy. Before she could reconcile her spiraling emotions, Mary caught sight of her grandkids, their little mouths full of her new dinner, trying to stifle giggles. They smiled broadly, telling her between bites how much they loved the new meals, how they felt revitalized, healthier. Her heart quickened, a flicker of hope igniting, but doubt crept in. Were they just being polite? Would her children recognize their children's happiness as reason enough to embrace change? As she stirred a pot of simmering quinoa, uncertainty washed over her. Could she truly marry her love for family traditions with her desperate need for health? Would her family draw a line in the sand, or would they be able to embrace this journey with her? The inner turmoil remained, the tension palpable as she faced the looming question: could she balance family legacy while nurturing her own well-being? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the kitchen window, Mary found herself staring blankly at the simmering pot on the stove. The laughter from her grandkids echoed faintly in the background, but instead of joy, she felt a vortex of confusion and frustration swirling within her. This new path towards a healthier lifestyle tugged at her heartstrings, but the bond between culinary tradition and modern necessity clashed violently in her mind. That evening, Mary resolved to try a different approach. Inspired by Joe's words and the genuine delight she witnessed in her grandchildren's eyes, she penned a vivid note to her family, inviting them to join her in this culinary journey. "Let's make this a family project," she wrote, combining our cherished recipes with healthier options. She dared to dream that they could create new traditions together, a blend of her past and a hopeful future. Her husband, James, cautiously entered the kitchen, scanning the ingredients lined up on the counter. "What's cooking tonight, Mary?" he asked, half smiling. His curiosity piqued. A twinge of hesitancy gripped her. She brushed aside his skepticism, pushing the nagging thoughts of doubt to the back of her mind. "Lasagna," she replied, choosing her words carefully. "But this time we'll experiment. I found some great substitutes we can try." James raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued but not entirely convinced. "Are you sure your family's going to go for this?" Suddenly, the prospect of defending her culinary creativity felt monumental. It wasn't just about the lasagna. It was about her health, her identity as a mother and grandmother, and the essence of family gatherings centered around food. The invisible weight of expectations settled on her shoulders as she replied, "I believe they'll be excited. I'll get them involved." That night, she gathered her family around the kitchen table, presenting each ingredient in a fresh, colorful manner. "Let's each pick something to add to our lasagna," she suggested. "You can choose what you want, and we'll create something beautiful together." Initially, silence reigned, the skepticism hanging thick in the air. But slowly, her grandchildren began to share playful banter, suggesting wild ingredients and laughing about how it would taste. Mary's heart swelled as she caught her eldest grandchild mix various vegetables into a bowl, giggling about how colorful the dish could be. With each shared laugh, each suggestion, Mary felt the delicate threads of familial connection weaving through her decision to change. Paintings of the past were slowly being updated with strokes of new creativity. However, in her heart lingered the unanswered question: would this willingness to adapt be enough to bring everyone together? As they chopped, stirred, and layered, Mary seized the moment to recount family stories tied to their traditional lasagna recipe. Her mother's intricate techniques, the way her grandmother would have involved everyone, transforming mealtime into a celebration of bonds. Layers of nostalgia blended seamlessly with zucchini and whole-grain pasta, reshaping the very recipe that had once defined their family gatherings. Before slipping the pan into the oven, Mary wondered how this experience would affect each family member's engagement with healthier living. Would they embrace these changes, or would the memories of their traditional favorites overshadow the new creations? As the aromas wafted through the kitchen, she caught sight of James approaching, a hint of pride in his eyes, nudging her heart towards a precarious optimism. Perhaps they could find common ground, navigating this uncharted territory together. But in the depths of her mind, a shadow of doubt persisted. Would the family truly be willing to adjust their perceptions? Was she courageous enough to uphold her convictions despite the possibility of resistance? As she peered into the oven, waiting for the timer to sound, she understood that this was not just about lasagna. It was a defining moment in her journey of transformation, one filled with endless possibilities, but also laden with the fear of failure. The realization hit her. The time had come to face her family's expectations head-on, putting everything on the line. Would they embrace this newfound culinary adventure, or would it mark the beginning of her isolation in a house filled with love yet stricken by conflict? The timer dinged, slicing through Mary's anxious thoughts. As she opened the oven door, a warm wave of steam billowed out, carrying with it the rich scent of the lasagna, intermingled with the aroma of fresh vegetables. It looked beautiful, just the way she hoped. "Okay, everyone, it's ready," she called, her voice edged with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. As her family gathered around the table, Mary paused, glancing at each face illuminated by the soft glow of the overhead light. She noticed the hesitation written on James's brow and the curious glances from her grandchildren. Her heart raced, not from the smell of the lasagna, but from the weight of what this moment represented, an embodiment of her resolve to blend the cherished with the new. Remember, this isn't just dinner. It's our chance to create something together, she reminded them, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly as she served generous portions. With the plates full and everyone seated, she took a deep breath and initiated the first taste testing. As her family dug in, the air filled with shouts of surprise. "Wow, this is really good!" one of her grandchildren exclaimed, his mouth full of lasagna layered with colorful vegetables. "I didn't think zucchini could taste this great in here," another chimed in, laughter bubbling over. Moments like this drew Mary into the joyous pulse of family life. But with each bite, she also felt the strain of expectation, rigid yet unspoken. "Not too shabby for an experiment, huh?" James remarked, his previous skepticism wavering under the glow of engagement. For a moment, the dinner transformed into a spontaneous celebration of flavors and laughter. Each family member took their turn to comment on the new additions and share which ingredient they found most surprising. Yet, even amidst this enjoyment, Mary sensed dark clouds brewing, ghosting over their collective delight. What would they think if the novelty faded, if tomorrow they returned to their habits, to the expectations she felt pressing upon her? Would she, as the family matriarch, continue celebrating innovation, or would traditional tastes reclaim their throne? The questions rippled through her as James leaned in closer, his voice lowering into the sincerity of a husband sensing the unease beneath his wife's smile. "Mary, I know this is important to you, but what?" she prompted, her challenge more defiant than curious. He hesitated, contemplating the potential fallout from the truth. "You might face some pushback. Not everyone sees change as a good thing. They're used to what they've always had." A flicker of frustration ignited inside her. She could feel the familiar tug-of-war between her desires for growth and the shackles of expectation binding her family's perspectives. "If I don't start this conversation," she thought furiously, "if I don't at least try to present something different, what will my legacy be?" Meanwhile, laughter from her grandchildren, unwittingly encroaching on her moment of self-reflection, held her attention. As she watched their enthusiasm, her heart swelled with renewed determination. In the whirlwind of her thoughts, Mary realized that this wasn't merely about cooking. It was about framing an entirely new narrative of family values woven through the fabric of adaptation and love. But she also understood that navigating resistance was going to be her greatest challenge. As the plates emptied and satisfaction washed over the kitchen, Mary's resolve hardened like the crust of the lasagna. She could not avoid conflict. She had to welcome it as part of her growth. As the evening wound down and the remnants of dinner lay scattered across the table, Mary caught the apprehensive glances shared by her family. Would they genuinely engage with her vision? Facing the possibility of conflict truly felt daunting. Just then, the doorbell rang, shaking the air with an unknown that threatened to disrupt the evening's delicate balance. Her heart skipped, an unsettling blend of curiosity and anxiety racing through her. What if this unexpected visit entwined with her journey toward healthier living, feeding the doubts she battled within herself? Who would step through that door, and how would they react to the changes she sought? In that moment, Mary understood that her culinary adventure was about to face a new kind of scrutiny. It was only the beginning. The door creaked open slowly, revealing an unexpected figure. It was Ruth, her longtime friend, whose vibrant presence had always filled the room with joy and warmth. But tonight, a frown creased her brow, an expression Mary hadn't seen in years. "Mary, I hope I'm not interrupting," Ruth said, stepping inside with cautious enthusiasm. "Not at all. We were just finishing dinner." Mary gestured towards the chaos of plates, remnants of the lasagna still glistening. Ruth's eyes narrowed as they flicked between Mary's family members, who were now distractedly discussing dessert. "I overheard you talking about making changes in your cooking and family meals. You've really taken a turn." Mary sensed the impending conversation would be anything but light. "I thought I'd try blending a few healthier options. It's a new approach," she replied, forcing a smile that felt brittle. Ruth's gaze fixated on the lasagna, scrutinizing it like a scientist analyzing a specimen. "Healthier options, you say? That can be quite challenging," she replied, tainted with skepticism. "Challenging, but necessary," Mary pressed, feeling the pressure of Ruth's skeptical eyes. This wasn't just about a meal. It encompassed a deeper quest for health and legacy, one that Mary was ready to articulate. "I understand the desire to innovate," Ruth continued, "but have you thought about how your family really feels about these changes?" The wave of doubt washed over Mary again. "They enjoyed tonight's dinner. They laughed and even learned to appreciate zucchini," she asserted, a hint of defiance creeping into her voice. Yet Ruth's frown deepened. "It isn't just about taste, Mary. Transitioning to healthier habits often leads to backlash, especially when people are set in their ways. They crave familiarity. Are you prepared for that?" Mary felt a discord between her ambition and the doubt seeded by Ruth's words. "It's a risk I need to take. If I don't push boundaries now, when will I?" Ruth tilted her head, assessing her friend as if searching for a crack in her resolve. "What about your husband?" "James doesn't seem fully on board," she observed, a deliberate statement laced with concern. The air grew thick with tension, and Mary's heart raced. She had thought about James's hesitance. It echoed painfully in her mind. "I'll handle it. This is about more than just dinner, Ruth. It's about giving them options, showing them there's more. What if they love it? What if they change?" Ruth's expression softened, understanding flickering in her eyes. "Change is difficult, Mary. Just remember, being a matriarch often means knowing when to lead and when to listen. There's power in knowing your family's preferences without sacrificing your own growth." A fire ignited within Mary at those words. She grasped the essence of her struggle. Listening didn't mean capitulating. It meant navigating a path where both her vision and their tastes could coexist. "Perhaps," she began, carefully choosing her words, "I can introduce smaller changes gradually, maintain some traditional elements while integrating new ones." Ruth nodded appreciatively, a glimmer of hope lighting her features. "There you go. That's the spirit. Balance. You can cultivate an appreciation for the new without denouncing the familiar." As the conversation shifted back to dessert, Mary felt lighter, emboldened by the embrace of pragmatism. Yet, as laughter resumed around the table, her mind flitted back to the impending conflict with James. She couldn't ignore his hesitance. It loomed like a specter in her resolve. The evening rolled on, but the tension settled deeper in her belly. How would she convince him to support her journey? More importantly, would she be able to find common ground without losing her own vision? Just as the laughter peaked, Mary caught James's eye across the table. He was smiling, but there was a flicker of uncertainty. Could she plant the seeds of change in him as well? As she prepared to broach the topic with him later, the doorbell rang again, eliciting an anxious flutter in her heart. Who could be interrupting them now? Would it be the support she needed? Or would this visitor bring more complications into her fragile plans? Her journey towards self-discovery and family evolution was poised on the edge of yet another unknown, and Mary was beginning to wonder if she was truly ready to confront the challenges ahead. Mary's heart raced as she stepped toward the door, each footfall tightening the knot of anxiety in her stomach. The laughter from the dining room faded, a gentle reminder of the harmony she sought to preserve. As she swung the door open, the familiar face that greeted her filled her with both relief and uncertainty. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Grant, a well-meaning woman with a penchant for unsolicited advice. "Good evening, Mary. I brought you some fresh herbs from my garden," Mrs. Grant said cheerfully, her hands overflowing with vibrant sprigs of rosemary and thyme. "Thank you so much."
"This is lovely," Mary managed, though internally she questioned whether this interruption was what she truly needed. Mrs. Grant stepped inside uninvited, her gaze sweeping the room and landing on the dinner table, still draped in remnants of their meal. "I heard you're making changes to your cooking. Everyone is talking about it," she declared, an almost conspiratorial thrill lighting her eyes. "Changes are tricky," she added, plucking a sprig of rosemary and inspecting it with exaggerated scrutiny, "especially when you have family to consider." Mary felt the weight of her friend's words resurface. Ruth's caution echoed in her mind, wrestling with her determined spirit. "I believe it's important for them to experience new flavors. It's an opportunity for growth," Mary asserted, hoping to bolster her own wavering confidence. "Oh dear," Mrs. Grant said with a sigh, folding her arms. "You need to be mindful of traditions. Children love the meals they grew up with. You don't want to risk that." Her words stabbed at Mary, igniting a fire of self-doubt. Hadn't she just resolved to blend the new with the old? Each suggestion from those around her felt like shifting sands beneath her feet. She cut off that train of thought sharply. This was her journey, after all, not theirs. "Mrs. Grant, I appreciate your concern, but I want my family to be open to new experiences. It's about health, balance, and so much more than just dinner," she vocalized, feeling the empowering embers of resolve begin to spark within her. The elder neighbor couldn't mask her surprise at Mary's assertiveness. "Well, I suppose if it works for you," she trailed off, not completely convinced, but clearly intrigued by the fierceness in Mary's voice. With that interaction pushing against her insecurity, Mary made her way back to the table, ready to reconnect with her family. She felt a sense of purpose swell within her. She would be the architect of change, not just for herself, but for everyone at the table. As the evening progressed, she turned her attention to James, studying the way his brow furrowed ever so slightly each time a healthier dish was mentioned. It wasn't that he disapproved, but rather he needed time to understand her intent. Gradually, she felt a shift of determination swell within her. She would find a way to reach him, to break through the unspoken barrier that held him back. "James," she ventured, carefully weaving her words together as if constructing a delicate bridge, "I want to talk about the way we eat at home. I need your support on this journey." His head snapped up, surprise mingling with uncertainty. "What do you mean?" he asked, his fork hesitating above his plate. "I don't want you to feel left behind. I want us all to embrace these changes together. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul overnight. I'm thinking of ways to blend our favorites with healthier options steadily."
"You and the kids will always have a say," she explained, heart pounding at her own boldness. He regarded her carefully. "But I don't want to lose what we have." The fear in his voice was palpable, shaking the foundation of her hopes. "Neither do I," she replied, her eyes locking onto his, conveying her sincerity. "We can transform our meals without sacrificing the love and tradition that bind us. I need you on this. Can we work through this together?" The tension in his shoulders eased just a fraction, a flicker of agreement beginning to dance in the depths of his eyes. For the first time, Mary felt a wave of optimism swelling within her, buoyed by the realization that confrontation need not fracture their bond. Then, just as James began to contemplate her words, the doorbell echoed throughout the house once more. Tension tightened again.
Who would come knocking now? Whatever awaited them could either be a challenge or an unexpected opportunity to strengthen their newly formed alliance. Mary inhaled deeply, steeling herself for the next phase of her journey. A confrontation or a revelation awaited her on the other side, and she was determined to face it head-on. Would it deepen the divide or reinforce the bond she so desperately wished to cultivate? Mary hesitated at the door, the rising murmur of voices from the dining room mysteriously blending with her heartbeat. Curiosity battled her anxiety. Mrs. Grant had been a distraction, but this new visitor could either complicate or clarify her already convoluted thoughts. She opened the door, steeling herself for whatever awaited her. The figure standing on the doorstep was a familiar friend, Clara, her college mentor, and a successful nutritionist with an infectious enthusiasm for healthy living. Clara's presence instantly injected a burst of energy into the heavy atmosphere of indecision. "Mary, it's so good to see you. I heard about your culinary evolution and just had to drop by," she exclaimed, stepping inside with an air of casual confidence. "Thanks, Clara," Mary replied, her unease softening as she embraced her friend's warmth. Clara's sincerity often illuminated the confusion clouding Mary's path. "I'm in the middle of something, a shift, really," she said, struggling to articulate her intentions without veering into the realm of self-doubt. "I love a good shift. Tell me more. You've always been passionate about health and nutrition," Clara encouraged, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Mary's resolve flickered to life. "I'm experimenting with healthier ingredients for my family. It's more than just nutrition. It feels like I'm trying to reshape our family's identity through food, but I keep encountering resistance." Clara nodded knowingly. Change is always met with resistance, especially in families. Sometimes your loved ones might feel threatened by the unknown, fearing they might lose a part of themselves in the process. "Exactly," Mary replied, the weight of that truth pressing against her chest. "James is worried that our meals will lose their essence and become unrecognizable." With an encouraging smile, Clara leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What if you turned that around? What if you invited James and the kids to this journey? Let them guide some of the new recipes. Make it a family adventure instead of a drastic transformation." Mary's mind fanned out with possibilities as she processed Clara's suggestion. That could actually work. Involving them might ease their fears. Rather than thrusting change upon them, I could frame it as a shared exploration. As ideas brewed in her mind, the tension from moments ago began to dissolve. Infusing her family's favorites with nutritious twists while soliciting their involvement felt like a golden opportunity to weave their traditions and new ideas together rather than severing ties with the old. "And what about you? What are you discovering through this process?" Clara prompted, her attention keen, pushing Mary to confront her own evolving identity amid these changes. Mary paused. "I've realized how much I've relied on external validation for my choices. Mrs. Grant's opinions made me question whether I'm doing this for us or to prove something to others. I want this change, not just for health reasons, but for the joy of cooking and the experience of creating something new together." Clara beamed, sensing the breakthrough. "That's the spirit. Embrace that desire and let it guide you. It will resonate with your family when they see you leading with authenticity." Feeling buoyed by Clara's support, Mary formulated a plan. "I'll schedule a family meal this weekend featuring new ingredients, but I'll ask everyone for their input, not just James, but the kids too. It'll be a celebration of flavors rather than a departure." Suddenly, the gravity of the doorbell's previous interruption hit her again. "I hope this commitment holds when the next challenge comes," she thought. Clara, noticing her momentary hesitation, whispered,
Remember, you're doing this for you and your family, not for anyone else. Keep that at the forefront. As Mary glanced over at Clara, the knot in her stomach began to loosen. Each interaction was not just a hurdle, but a stepping stone on her personal path of growth. But the doorbell's chime still echoed in her mind, awakening a specific anxiety that went beyond cooking. What awaited them on the other side? Would it be another challenge that could either weaken her resolve or fortify her newfound strength? Her aspirations hung in the air like unturned spices, waiting to be revealed. The next step was crucial. She needed to confront what lay ahead. Would facing the next challenge yield unexpected support or stronger opposition? Mary felt a twinge of apprehension as she turned away from Clara, the irony of the evening settling in. While she had begun to embrace her culinary reinventing, the looming presence of outside opinions about her choices pressed heavily on her chest. That doorbell, which had momentarily distracted her, now felt like an omen. Clenching her fists, she acknowledged the tension within. Yet, beneath the anxiety, there was a burgeoning determination. "Focus," she whispered to herself. "This is about more than just food. It's about us as a family." Clara stood on the periphery, her energy still resonating with Mary. "Let's not let whoever is at the door derail the progress," she said lightly, her smile a beacon of reassurance. With a deep breath, Mary brushed aside her fears and joined Clara. Together, they walked toward the front door, where the lingering echo of uncertainty began to wane, replaced by the faintest flicker of hope. The door swung open to reveal an unexpected visitor, Mrs. Grant, the very embodiment of traditionalism. "Mary, dear, I thought I might catch you for a chat," Mrs. Grant stated, her tone both familiar and imposing. Mary felt a mix of nostalgia and frustration. Here was someone who had been part of her culinary journey, yet represented the rigid past she wanted to transcend. "Mrs. Grant," Mary replied, maintaining her composure, "what a surprise." "I came to deliver a few of my favorite recipes. I think you could revive some of your family's favorites with these," Mrs. Grant continued, holding out a decorated folder. Her sincerity, though genuine, felt like an intrusion. She had always reserved a place of authority in Mary's culinary narrative, a space that now needed to be redefined. Mary exchanged a glance with Clara, who raised an eyebrow in encouragement. With her heart pounding, Mary made a choice. "I appreciate that, but I'm actually on a different path. I'm trying to incorporate healthier options while keeping things familiar and fun for my family," Mary said, her voice steady but subdued. "You've always been one for experimentation, haven't you?" Mrs. Grant remarked, a hint of condescension creeping into her tone. "But you know, change can be daunting for the family. What makes you think they will accept a new way of eating?" There it was, the challenge that rippled through the very environment of the home she sought to reshape. Mary felt an urge to justify her intentions, but something within urged her to stand firm instead. "I think they will embrace it if I let them be a part of it. It's not about throwing out the past, but evolving with it. Oh, I do hope you don't lose what's important to them in the process," Mrs. Grant added, her posture firm and unyielding, as if expecting Mary to buckle. "I intend to blend the best of both worlds," Mary replied, her voice even stronger now. "Changing recipes doesn't mean losing flavor or tradition. It means opening a dialogue." With Clara busy arranging the kitchen and preparing to help with the day's tasks, Mary found herself lost in thought. She felt a dissonance between her aspirations and the lingering fears of disapproval. Her fingers grazed over a beloved recipe for macaroni and cheese that her family adored, a quintessential comfort food. It was the kind of meal that had unfolded memories. But what if she swapped the cream for a cashew-based sauce, or the refined pasta for whole grain? Clenching her jaw, Mary took a mental snapshot of her current dilemma.
Ignoring the looming figure of Mrs. Grant, she was confronted with an intrinsic reality that her journey was as much about courage as it was about culinary mastery. The truth was simple yet daunting. She needed to make choices based on her vision, not the apprehensions of others. As thoughts circled in her mind, the doorbell chimed again, this time a less intrusive sound, yet loaded with uncertainty. It could be another friend stepping into her kitchen or something more treacherous. Stepping out of her introspection, Mary blinked at Clara, who nodded attentively, picking up on the tension thrumming through the air. With a sigh, Mary went to answer. This time she was greeted by the sight of her daughter, Lily, standing there with an energetic bounce, her arms full of grocery bags. "Surprise! I wanted to help you prep for the family dinner. Can we make the new recipes together?" Something softened in Mary. Lily's enthusiasm was contagious. "Of course," she replied, retrieving the bags from her daughter. As they unloaded the groceries, her daughter excitedly listed off the ingredients for a healthy version of pizza that Mary had shared with Clara. Mary felt a flicker of joy mixed with an unexpected realization. Her daughter was already embracing the changes. The optimism radiating from Lily lit a path through her uncertainty. Could this family dinner be an opportunity not just for culinary exchange, but for unity? "Let's do this," Mary declared, feeling a newfound resolve settle in. They brainstormed together, weaving threads of tradition with innovative ideas. As they kneaded dough and chopped vegetables, conversations flowed freely, allowing Mary to kindle excitement in her daughter's eyes about the possibilities ahead. Lily's voice punctuated the kitchen. "You know, Mom, it's cool that you want to change things up. I think everyone's going to love it. The old recipes don't have to fade away. They can evolve." Mary smiled at her daughter's insight. It resonated deeply. This was about evolution, not disbanding her culinary past. She was finally beginning to anchor her self-discovery into tangible actions. As the day unfolded, the kitchen became a creative haven, filled with laughter, the clattering of utensils, and the enticing aroma of new flavors. However, uncertainty still loomed like a shadow, reminding her of the dinner conversation to come with Mrs. Grant and the elderly traditions she represented. That night, as the plates filled with vibrant garnishes and nutritious ingredients, Mary felt her heart racing. They would share this meal with her family, a reflection of her journey and values. Yet, as she set the table, a chill of anticipation washed over her. Would everyone be as receptive to her vision as Lily had been? And if they weren't, how would she respond? Was she prepared to stand her ground when the conversation inevitably steered towards the recipes of old? The doorbell echoed throughout the house, and with it came an urgency. A moment of truth awaited just beyond the threshold. The questions spiraled in her mind as she prepared to embrace whatever unfolded next. As Mary opened the door, the rush of air filled with expectations and tension washed over her. Standing before her was the lively figure of her sister, Marissa, arms spread wide and grinning like a beacon of familiarity. "I'm here. Let the chaos of our family dinner commence," she declared, stepping in with an infectious enthusiasm that momentarily dispelled Mary's apprehension. Yet, as Marissa hung up her coat and caught sight of the beautifully prepared table laden with an array of vibrant, innovative dishes, her smile faltered slightly. "Oh, wow, what did you do to my mom's mac and cheese?" she asked, feigning shock. The laughter that bubbled out of her echoed in the kitchen, but Mary's heart lurched. It felt like an indictment, a pointed reminder of the traditions that loomed over her aspirations. Mary felt hot under the collar, knowing that Marissa's words, though playful, struck at a nerve. Would they all really accept what she had created? This experimentation rendered without the familiar comfort was risky. But as her gaze fell upon Lily, her daughter beaming with pride over their shared work, Mary felt a surge of determination. "Let's dive into it," she said, trying to mask the hesitation in her voice. "I believe in what we've made. I want to show you that meals can change, just like we do. This will be a celebration of health and our memories woven into something new." Marissa eyed her skeptically, but nodded, allowing the conversation to drift away into more playful banter. As family members trickled in, Mary noticed a recurrent pattern. Everyone seemed taken aback initially, their faces questioning her culinary deviations. However, familiarity slowly bridged their skepticism as they began to serve themselves. Yet, despite the laughter and the clinking of forks, Mary was acutely aware of Mrs. Grant's impending arrival. There was a heaviness in the kitchen that she could not shake, with anticipation swirling like the aroma of herbs filling the space. How would she face the inevitable questions regarding tradition? Would she crumble under the weight of her own resolve when pressed by the woman revered for adherence to the culinary past? Suddenly, as if summoned by her silent dread, the door swung open. Mrs. Grant entered, regal in her stature, her discerning gaze sweeping across the dining room to absorb the scene. The tension escalated. Every breath felt heavy with underlying stakes of approval and unspoken judgments. "Mary, my dear," Mrs. Grant began, voices smooth as silk but carrying an imperceptible edge, "I see you've decided to embrace your own style." Mary clenched her jaw, feeling the protective instinct flare within her. "Yes, I've learned that food is not just about the way it used to be, but how it can evolve," she replied, a slight tremor in her voice betraying her confidence. Mrs. Grant's brow furrowed thoughtfully, her expression inscrutable. "You're speaking of evolution in the culinary arts, but can we also acknowledge that tradition has its merits?" In that moment, Mary realized the challenge ahead was not solely about the food on the table. It was about standing firm in her convictions amidst a clash of ideologies. As the dinner progressed, conversations often redirected back to the familiar recipes of old, to Mrs. Grant's beloved methods. Mary felt the walls close in around her, her thoughts racing with defensive strategies. She wanted to share her journey of discovery and the love that had inspired the dishes before them, yet anxiety gripped her in a vice. With every bite of her newfound recipes being evaluated against the backdrop of nostalgia, the time had come for her to confront not just Mrs. Grant, but her own insecurities. She needed to articulate her vision clearly, to champion an evolution that did not run counter to the family foundations she cherished deeply. Across the table, Lily caught her eye and nodded encouragingly. It was a reminder of why she was there, of the path she had taken to be present in this moment. As Mary prepared to take that fateful step in addressing her family's expectations, the next question fell heavily in the air, one that would determine not just her relationship with Mrs. Grant, but her identity as a mother and a culinary innovator. Would she be bold enough to push for change, or would she retreat into the shadows of tradition? The weight of the moment pressed down, ready to culminate in a burst of clarity, or perhaps conflict. Whatever it may be, she was ready to face it. Mary took a deep breath, grounding herself as she prepared to face the challenges of the evening. She glanced at her family, a patchwork of faces filled with curiosity and skepticism. It was time to carve her narrative, a blend of honor for the past while paving a vibrant path for the future. "Everyone," she began, her voice steady yet soft, "I appreciate each of you for gathering tonight and showing your support despite my radical shift in cooking." She paused, letting her words surface and settle, feeling the anticipation rise. Mrs. Grant studied her intently, eyebrow raised, challenging, yet intrigued. "I know my approach might be unconventional," Mary continued, catching glimpses of her children's expectant faces, "but it represents my journey towards healthier living, not just for me, but for all of us. Health is quickly becoming a priority for me, and I want to share that with you." As she spoke, the kitchen filled with a mixture of apprehension and hope. This was a defining moment, a stepping stone towards deeper connection. "I want us to evolve our family meals together. I'm not suggesting we lose the essence of our traditions. Instead, let's enhance them," she implored, excitement sparking in her voice.
Tonight's meal celebrates our favorites with a fresh twist. These recipes marry the old taste and nutritional growth. Let's not treat this as a compromise, but as an opportunity for creativity. James, sitting across the table, wore a thoughtful expression, mildly nodding as he considered her words. Mary felt a rush of encouragement. Change can be challenging, she added, locking eyes with Mrs. Grant, but growth is essential. Preserving the love tied to food doesn't mean we can't adapt it. We're honoring what has been while welcoming what could be. As the flavors of her dishes swirled across the table, laughter broke the tension as their first bites unveiled surprise and delight. "Wow, this is amazing!" Lily exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. The renewed energy rippled through the group, turning apprehension into genuine engagement. Mary felt warmth bloom in her chest, a validation that this path was more than just food, it was familial nurturance. Each passing dish served not only as nourishment, but also as a foundation for future bonding moments, strengthened within the framework of shared experiences. "Mary, this lasagna has a nice kick," James chimed in, a smile breaking through his earlier skepticism. "When you said you had a twist on it, I wasn't expecting this flavor explosion." No sooner had he spoken than others began to share their appreciation. Stories of the original recipes began to blend into the new layers of flavor. But then Mrs. Grant interjected, a thoughtful expression gracing her face. "You make excellent points, Mary, but let's remember that change isn't just about taste, it's also about comfort." With resolve, Mary drew from the last remnants of her doubt. "I agree, Mrs. Grant. What we're doing tonight is integrating comfort with adventure, embodying the legacy of our cooking traditions by inviting them to evolve with us. I couldn't do this without holding space for the past," she asserted, feeling a surge of inner strength. This boldness had become her hallmark. It was clarity born from the struggle to blend old and new. Each affirmation from her family fueled her courage, converging boundaries once drawn into distinct camps. Instead of an ultimatum, they had crafted a collective exploration of culinary possibilities. As the evening progressed, conversations blossomed. Mary watched her family exchange ideas while relishing new flavors crafted with love. The kitchen morphed from an ordinary space into a canvas alive with aspirations for the future of their family dining experiences. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and delightful discourse, Mary felt a solid confidence rise within her. She had proven not only her commitment to her health, but also how to embrace resistance and turn it into fuel for creativity. Maybe, she mused aloud as she served dessert, an innovative fruit tart layered with nut-based cream. We can collaboratively build our family's culinary lexicon, a blend of nostalgic favorites and new creations. The air filled with laughter as her grandchildren chatted animatedly, the warmth resonating through the space. Coalescing familial ties fortified through shared meal preparation and openness to change. Mary glanced around the table, absorbing the rich tapestry woven through connection, tradition, and evolution. She felt recognized and competent. She had conquered fear through invention, action, and experience. As the meal concluded, Mary savored the satisfaction that blossomed within her. She had transcended the boundaries of mere sustenance, cultivating an environment of wellness, laughter, and inclusivity. She had successfully bridged generations in ways that honored their past and embraced future possibilities. And she knew she was ready for whatever lay ahead. In this moment, she achieved more than culinary success. She had set the foundation for future family engagement in the dance of flavors, a legacy redefined and enriched. Fully confident, she felt she had finally arrived at a well-earned place of personal fulfillment. Now, readers, this is the moment for you. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, and this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.